Good afternoon and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in full-time private practice, offering this program to you along with my colleague, wonderful friend and business partner, Dr. Robert Jaffe at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Live.
Thank you, Dr. Rashidian. We're here today to talk about sexuality, which is a fun and important topic. And we're here always to let you know that what we want is for everyone to feel more loving and joyful every day of our lives. That's our goal. We always dedicate this program to you, our listeners, and we want you to know that we all come into the world as our loving, authentic, true selves. We come in with many fine qualities, and one of which is we become open to new learning, open to new experiences. We come in curious. We're wondering about the world. We're wondering about ourselves and those around us. We come in emotionally available, meaning that we can feel each other's energy, and we can give and receive energy with other people. We come in honest. We don't know how to lie when we first come in, and that's a great quality. We come in compassionate. We can actually feel other people when they're feeling down or sad, and we care about that. We all come in sexual. That's what our program is about today. And we also come in trusting that the world is going to greet us and treat us in a wonderful way. And then we move on. And from that place, we learn about a lot of things. Some of those experiences are very positive and helpful, some not so much. And so what do we do if the experiences we've had are not so much? And that's why we're here. We're here to help you overcome and reclaim that very vital, important part of your loving, authentic, true selves, your authentic, true, loving self. So here we are.
Here we are, and we would like to encourage you to please call us because we want to hear from you. We want to hear about your experiences, and also for you to tell us what works for you and what would you like to hear at this program, so we can better offer you your choice of, problems and points that you wish to understand better and to expand on and to have a higher level of awareness. So our phone number here live is 951-922-3532. You may also visit us at our YouTube, heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. We are also on KMET Facebook, so there are many. Contact us, and you may also contact us privately if you wish, and our information to be contacted privately are also listed at our homepage at KMET website.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Robert Jaffe, we were talking about another topic of sexuality, and I hear from many of my clients that one of the partners has basically low sex drive or no sex drive or not enough sex drive. So each one of them comes up with variety of description of how sex drive looks to them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And when we talk to them, we see that there is lots of variety of factors going on in their lives that they are not either paid attention to, or they are not recognized, or they don't seem to be significant to them. And or if they know about them, they don't see any relevance, between what's going on.
They don't make that connection.
They don't make any connection between sex drive and what's going on in their life.
And what's going on emotionally.
Right.
And so we're here today to talk about the psychological and cultural factors.
Plus physical.
Plus physical, right.
Right.
But the physical is really something that needs to be checked out with a physician. because there can be hormonal imbalances and other things that a physician could find that are important.
Right.
Today, I guess we're going to be talking more about what we could do ourselves if we go to a physician and that person and the physician says, well, we check out, everything is in balance.
Right.
Right.
Right. And the issue of sex drive within a relationship is also, as many of you know, and you and I definitely know that, it's a major factor. It brings romance together. It brings communication together.
Mm-hmm.
It brings two people together.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of, it's the flame. In some ways, it's a flame of the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
And if sex drive, for whatever reason, it is not as active as anticipated to be, or expected to be, or wanted or desired to be, then we need to look at both at external factors as well as internal factors.
Correct.
So what I would like to do then to invite couples, that when there is a sex drive issue, instead of blaming each other for that and, pointing finger at each other, is to actually sit down and review what's going on. And then if they are not able to identify, specific factors, to definitely, contact, somebody who's an expert in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Because an expert can help you to understand what is the cause of, problem that impacts sex drive in variety of factors.
And can offer you new ways of looking at the problem that can open up doors to new solutions that you hadn't been aware of. And if you're not aware of it, of course, you can't act on it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So awareness is the key factor. Yesterday I was at a meeting and the word awareness was replaced by the word change. And that backfired on me. So
yeah. And actually I want to say something about that, because what I have read, and I've read this from many authors, is that awareness is change. Yes, that actually they're synonymous. That when you make a change, you can't really do it without having a new awareness.
Exactly.
And when you have a new awareness, it creates a new outlook, which is change. Because once you have a new outlook, you act based on that outlook, not the old outlook.
Right.
So I think change and awareness are actually synonymous.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Well, I think it's true.
But that's a big point. Without change doesn't happen unless we have an awareness, right? And then without awareness, we don't have that far to go. So it's awareness that change happens, and then change also brings a different level of awareness. So they kind of run in a circle, one, following each other.
Right.
So let's see what is the number one factor that impacts sex drive. And this is something that we hear from many people on a daily basis, and some people take it seriously more than others, and some people take it very lightly, right? And that's the issue of stress. We know that some people do many things well when they are stressed. So yes, when we have a stress, some people can pay, more attention to what needs to be done, and they take care of it. But imagine, how much, cortisol and everything else is produces during that time.
Right.
So, but when people are under stress, feeling sexy usually isn't one of them. You don't feel sexy when you are under stress.
Correct.
Right? So stress at work, home, or in relationship can happen to anyone, and learning how to handle it in a healthy way really helps. People can do a lot of this process themselves, and of course a counselor or a doctor can also help,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how a doctor helps is to provide the medication necessary to help with the reduction of stress.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the counselor, you can learn about how to understand the source of your stress and then replace it with a much healthier choice and option. And therefore, bring your stress level at a manageable place, at a place where, it's no longer impactful on variety of bodily functions and the desires such as, sex drive.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Because you said, that when you're stressed, you don't feel sexy.
Right.
What I'd like to do right now is just say that people think of stress usually in a negative way.
Right.
However, actually, there's two kinds of stress. One is what we call eustress, EU stress. Eustress is when you have a positive anticipation of the outcome. The other one is called distress, the damsel in distress, right? And with distress, you have a negative anticipation of the outcome. So depending upon what kind of stress you have, you may feel like you want to have sex. In a lot of cases, when you're distressed, you don't want to have sex, but when you have eustress, you do. And I use an example of anticipating a roller coaster ride. Some people think of a roller coaster ride and think, wow, that's going to be a lot of fun, and that's exciting. And so that causes their heart rate to rise and changes in their body, but it's positive because it's releasing positive endorphins because they're anticipating something fun. Some people think, oh my God, I'm going to feel afraid that I'm going to fall out. My stomach's going to be up in my throat and it's going to be miserable. And so then they have also feelings in their body, but those feelings aren't pleasant feelings. So I just wanted to make that differentiation.
Well, thank you. I think that's a very important point. And, we hear about the stress from, I would say, majority, of our clients,
Mm-hmm.
right? They come in and say, oh, I have so much stress that, it's just taking over everything I do. So including in that everything is sex drive,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And when you focus on the problem, the mind goes away from focusing on pleasure.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
therefore, sex drive being a source of, pleasure, of course, it goes in the hiding.
Yeah. I was talking to a client yesterday about his sexual relationship with his wife, and he said, we don't have sex very much. And I said, what's your understanding of that? And he said, well, she likes to tell me what to do. And she's always telling me, that I'm not doing it right, and this. And he says, and so I just feel like I don't want to do it because I feel like she's controlling it all the time.
Right.
And he said, I know she has some sexual trauma and all of this, but it's just not fun for me. So that's an example of not looking forward to something that actually in and of itself can be very pleasurable.
Yes, exactly. So we just got our first notice about commercial break coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and we would love to talk to you about this important topic right after our commercial break.
See you soon.
Welcome back from a commercial break. This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here offering you a new program about human sexuality. And today we are talking about what's, some of the killer of sex drive, right?
Exactly.
And please call us. We would like to hear from you. And what would you like to hear in this program? Our phone number live is 951-922-3532. We understand that you may not feel comfortable to share your thoughts with us online and on the live program. Therefore, please feel free to contact us privately. and also introduce this program to somebody that you believe may benefit from, because our goal is to reach out to as many people as possible so we can provide more help across the globe. And we appreciate the fact that you're spending your hour with us, and we thank you for that. So Dr. Robert Jaffe, we were talking about what are some of the killers of sex drive, right?
Right.
And then the second one is that I also see frequently in therapy is partners' problems, right? So problems with partners are among the top sex drive killers. For women, for example, feeling close is a major part of desire.
Right.
And these are something that you and I are writing about, actually.
We are definitely writing about it.
For both partners, for both sexes, basically, there are problems when they fight. They have poor communication. They may feel betrayed or other trust issues. And we have been talking about all of this, right? And
yes.
we are about to finish that. And actually, the title of our book is For Now. Not Tonight, Honey, I Have a Headache.
That's the title.
That's the title.
That's the title.
Right. So when there is partner's problem, it's really tricky about how to get back on track. And then the best solution is to, if you haven't been able to solve the issues among yourself, the best method now would be to contact somebody who's specializing in relationship, right? So here we're talking about fights. We're talking about poor communication, feeling betrayed, or other trust issues, right? These are actually some of the major, general issues that we see in our practice.
And I think one of the biggest problems, challenges that couples face is through the way they communicate.
Right.
Communication is essential if you really want to understand yourself and your partner. And I was talking to a couple just this morning about how we learn how to communicate by watching the people in our lives communicate when we're very little, and we just take that in and make the assumption that that's the way that partners communicate. And the thing that I was commenting on was how many people, when they listen to their partner, they're listening to respond rather than listening to understand.
Right.
And I think this is a very important point because when you listen to respond, you're not trying to put yourself in the place of your partner. You're not trying to see, well, for the man, what would it be like to be her?
Right.
Given her upbringing, given her life experiences, given her particular personality, what would it be like to be her? Because if I can understand that and I can communicate that I really understand what it's like to be her, then she's going to feel relaxed. She's going to feel happy that she's seen and appreciated. She's going to feel like she's understood, and she will be. And she's going to be much more open and loving to her partner when he communicates that. But instead, what we hear is it is an argument over my perspective versus your perspective,
right,
and who's right and who's wrong. And the right or wrong thing can be anything, and can be something as simple as, and I heard this recently, which container to put the plastic bottle in.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You put it in the wrong container. What do you mean?
Right.
I didn't, and so to me, really listening to understand rather than listening to respond has got to be a central point that you make when you're talking with your partner.
We have that in our book, right?
Yes.
Listening to respond versus listening to understand. I have a very good example that it happened this morning, actually, and I like to share that because it's totally, relevant to what you just described, right? So early in the morning, I got the text from a client of mine, And then she said that if I can, if she can talk to me for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And this lady yesterday had her second dose of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
right? So naturally, we all knew that she's going to have some reactions, right? And actually, she ended up getting a severe reaction, right? With a fever, high fever, chills and a headache and body ache, to the point that she couldn't sleep last night, right? So at 3 o'clock in the morning, she kind of wakes up, her husband, and says, "Honey, I'm having lots of chills and lots of ache. Can you please give me some warm water or warm tea or something warm?" And then he tells her, "Well, I thought you're getting up early so you can make me breakfast."
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay.
Honestly,
There we go.
when I heard that, I got goosebumps all over my body. And I was wondering, oh my God, what am I going to say to this lady to calm her down? Because she was absolutely had every right to be so hurt.
Yeah.
And then I told her, did he remember that, that she had, COVID vaccination and the second dose, and he's also himself in the healthcare industry, so it's not like he's not a knowledgeable person to know about this. And
but you know what? That really doesn't even matter.
That doesn't matter,
because
right?
if your
Yes.
partner isn't feeling well and you're not thinking about them, you're thinking about you, it doesn't go over so well.
Exactly. So she was telling me, what's her role in this relationship, and then if she can't trust that her husband will give her, a glass of warm water or warm tea when she's having, an illness or a situation like she experienced, what is her role in this? She kept saying, "What is my role in this relationship? Tell me, how am I going to have to deal with this? Tell me how to understand this." She just kept, she was sobbing and saying, "Just help me understand this." And I said, understand, you have every right to feel this way, because that is profound level of ignorance that I have seen, at least one of it.
Well, emotional ignorance.
Emotional
ignorance. Right,
exactly.
right. Because he isn't even. I mean, he probably wasn't thinking that he wanted to hurt her.
Right.
He probably wasn't thinking about her at all. He was just thinking about himself.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what he does. He is on the pedestal, and everybody else is beneath, including his wife. Everybody else.
But I'm saying he wasn't being deliberately hurtful.
No, he wasn't being deliberately hurtful, but emotionally he can hurt her.
Of course.
Yes,
yeah.
With what he says and what he does or doesn't.
Yes.
Yes. So it took me, a while to calm her down, and then we promised that we will discuss this the next time we meet. But this is a good example of, poor communication and just focusing on self, and then not understanding, your partner, and not understanding what the partner is experiencing at the moment,
And that's about as obvious as it gets.
It gets.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I've been still
it's sort of like it's sort of like you watch your partner walk across the street and the car hits her, and she's lying there and she's moaning and groaning, and he runs up to her and he goes, "Oh my God, honey, who's going to cook me dinner?"
Who's going to cook me? Exactly.
Yeah.
There is actually, a movie, on it's a TV, serial that I love this serial, because it has such a good points about poor communication, and I think that's one of the aim of this program. Who loves Raymond, something like that.
Yeah. Raymond, right. Yes.
I think that's the name. Everybody
loves
Raymond.
Yes,
right?
yes.
talk about poor communication.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
They
it comes across as funny, but then again, those are not funny, really.
well, they're funny because it's overdone.
It's over. Yeah,
They
right.
make a point of how it's overdone.
Yeah,
But what you're talking about is happened in real life, and
yeah,
certainly it wasn't funny to her.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, communication is significant and it can definitely. So, imagine if, for the examples that we just provided, who wants to have sex after this kind of a communication?
Well, who wants to be married?
Yeah, who wants to be married? Exactly.
What am I doing with you?
Yeah, what am I
Yeah,
doing with you? You can't even, bother to get up and give
right.
me, and people think, again, this is kind of not relevant maybe, but I think I like to say it. People think that education brings in wisdom.
and 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 I believe that it does. However, what we have failed to realize is that there's something called emotional intelligence,
Emotional
and
intelligence.
people can be educated emotionally,
Yeah,
but if they're not educated emotionally, they're just educated with specific things like engineering or medicine or law or whatever. It doesn't help the person develop emotional wisdom.
exactly, exactly. So hopefully our book is going to be out soon, and then you will see many of the points that we have, stated clearly as part of, what happens when, somebody loses, her sex drive in this case, and doesn't want to participate,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not their lack of desire per se as an illness, but it is lack of desire as a result of emotional hurt,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right.
Well, hurt immediately within 3 to 5 seconds when we get hurt, if we don't express it, if we don't say ouch, if we don't say you just hurt me or you hurt my feelings, it morphs into anger.
Exactly.
And then anger, if we hold on to it, usually morphs into guilt, and if we hold on to guilt, it morphs into shame, and all of those are negative emotions that don't help you at all with intimacy, with
Right.
emotional intimacy.
Exactly. So the next thing that's really significant and impacts, sex drive is alcohol consumption.
Mm.
People think actually drinking, glasses of wine or something, it actually enhances that the quality of sex drive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have evidence now that that may not be so true,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a drink, may make people feel more open to have sex.
Well, it disinhibits.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it disinhibits people, which then allows them to be more sexual.
Right.
However, physiologically, it's a downer.
It's a downer. Yes. And then, the alcohol consumption can numb actually sex drive, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then also, binge drinking also can be a turn off to partners. Some people, they just like to drink before going to bed, and then they started to drink right from late afternoon all the way to the evening, a little bit here, a little bit there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then of course, when people, drink a lot, it's a loss of control, it's loss of, being present, it's a loss of awareness,
Right.
right?
Right.
Lots of connection. So it may enhance the sex for them, the person who drinks, but definitely, it's not appealing to the partner when they have sex with somebody who's not present,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And then when this continues, eventually, alcohol consumption, it's a negative factor for sex drive altogether,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So
And especially it can be an emotional turnoff
right.
to people who have had problems in their life with alcohol, either personally or in relationships. So, for example, if you're an adult child of an alcoholic and your partner likes to drink, it can bring up the feelings of when your father or your mother would get drunk, and that can be a big emotional turnoff. Or if you've had your own problems with alcohol and then your partner has a drink, it can also trigger those old feelings. So it's really important that you understand what's going on when either you or your partner are drinking.
Exactly. Yes. So people ask me, so they have asked me, for example, I have a couple that uh, the wife doesn't drink or doesn't smoke any recreational drugs,
Mm-hmm.
but the husband does both.
Mm-hmm.
So he likes to smoke weed and he likes to have a drink before having sex.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right. Right. Yeah. And so my guess is that the wife feels that she may be physically aroused, but emotionally maybe not so much.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the issues that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one is, not having enough sleep. So we just got our notice about commercial break, and then we will continue with this important discussion in a few minutes. Please join us again.
Website. Heart-to-Heart Counseling is here for you.
Welcome back to our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. For those of you who are just joining us, our program today is about what kills sex drive,
Mm-hmm.
right? So our phone number live is 951-922-3532. We would like to hear from you. We would like to hear from your story, about your story, and also what works for you, what can we bring to you in this program. So please call us. We were talking about sleep, not getting enough sleep, as one of the factors that impacts sex drive.
Yes.
And that's actually, everything we have said so far, both applies to male and female,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it
Right.
doesn't really matter. There is no gender issue here that, that can, make it easier. No, both genders are impacted by this, what we have offered so far. So if sex drive is not there, then lack of sleep or good quality sleep can be one of the reasons, right? For those who go to bed so late or those have to get up early,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sex drive can be a problem for them eventually. And if there are people that they have a sleep problem, right? For example, when they go to bed, it takes them a long time to fall asleep.
Right.
They have to read something, or they have to do some activity, or everything has to be so silent, everything has to be so dark
Mm-hmm.
for them to fall asleep. So they have a very, very shallow level of sleep, and they don't get deep sleep,
Mm-hmm.
right? There is a sleep apnea issue, right?
Right.
So there are variety, or sometimes people go to bed with full stomach,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So any of that or other conditions that can, impact, sleep can definitely impact, sex drive. So what happens in, lack of sleep or lack of having good quality sleep can create fatigue over time.
Mm-hmm.
And fatigue, impacts, sexual desires. And so when that happens, the first step is to contact a physician.
Mm-hmm.
Because a physician can determine, factors that is impacting the sleep negatively, and then they can do something for it. There are a variety of techniques that they are used in order to enhance, sleep quality. However, what I myself recommend is that stress can be one of the reasons for people not fall asleep.
Yeah, and so I want to say that whenever you visit a psychotherapist or counselor and you have symptoms of any kind, let's say you're not sleeping well, or let's say you come in because you're stressed, uh, anything that has to do with the body, it's very important for the counselor to refer you to your physician so that you can find out whether there's anything physiological going on that can account for it, and to take care of that. And if the physician comes up empty, then it's much clearer that it's a psychological condition, and then a trained therapist can be very effective.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, don't take your lack of sleep lightly, because as a matter of fact, not only it impacts, sex drive, it also impacts many other, physiological parts in body, and also that tiredness, that fatigue doesn't allow people to concentrate on many tasks that a person has during daytime.
Right.
Right. So, and also I'll add to it, if you can during daytime, take a nap. Whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even better, try to take a nap and give your body and your mind some rest. And then the next one that impacts sex drive, believe it or not, is having kids.
Yeah, wow. Who would have thunk?
Okay, not that having kids is a bad thing. I think it's a gift. Those who become parent, it's a gift. It's a gift of God. However, when it comes to having sex, we don't want those gifts of gods to be around us, right?
Usually not.
Yeah, usually not, especially when the kids are at the age where they can understand what sexual, activities look like, or they can sense that something's going on in the parents' bedroom, and they become curious to find out, what's going on, that parents lock the door, and, so they question it, right?
Yeah.
And then when they question it, and parents usually wait for the kids to go to sleep so that they can go and have sex, and sometimes kids don't fall asleep at the designated time, right? So some of them, they become kind of naughty and they just want to run around, and parents get tired before they get tired, right?
Right.
So therefore, there you go. Okay, well, let me just go to bed and close my eyes and fall asleep, and then forget about sex, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and of course, it does complicate things a lot, because oftentimes the sounds that we make during sex don't often sound happy, like they're happy sounds, right? And so the child may misinterpret what's going on, and then may get frightened, depending upon, of course, the child's age. So it does complicate things quite a bit.
Exactly. We think that, even ourselves growing up, many of us have witnessed, our parents, we have heard them, to say the least, right, that they have had sex, and we have wondered, what's going on with that. And then, and kids are not educated about that aspect of life yet as a young kids, So that's one group. And then the other group, infants, when they are born, couples, they think that the sex department is done with for a while, and part of it has to do with, of course, that they think that they have to devote all that they have to the child, and then they forget about themselves. Where in fact, the sex doesn't die because, a parent, a couple becomes a parent.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I do have a couple actually right now that they recently became pregnant, and I noticed that they're treating the pregnancy like an illness rather than a process, And I had to point at that one out, and I said, "Do you think you're ill because you're pregnant?" And then she said, "Well, I said, well, she's holding her 3-month-old tummy, like so tight, as though the baby is gonna fall off."
Right.
And then they're not having sex, and I said, "Okay, well, we need to discuss this. We need to, understand what's the holdup and all of that."
Exactly.
So we are actually working on that. So having a kid, cannot be a reason for not having sex. And if you believe that your sex drive is low because of having kids around at any age, then either take a weekend vacation with your partner or hire a babysitter. Do something, because you can't put your sex drives on hold until kids grow and move out.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're going to come back with grandkids, and then you never have the chance for
The
that.
other thing about kids is, traditionally, not so much anymore, but still somewhat, I think the woman is the one to be the caregiver. And then, especially if the woman is working and taking and being the primary caregiver, even if the husband contributes, it's usually more the woman's responsibility, or she takes that responsibility. And so then the woman is pretty worn out because she's trying to do so much, and then that worn out feeling and that tired feeling is also not conducive to being sexual.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yes, usually in many cases, the wife or the mother is the last one to go to bed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then moms usually think about what the kids are gonna have for breakfast, so they make sure that they have the lunch packet, kind of ready almost, and then so every minute that the woman spends in the kitchen or around the house to take care of family, it's a moment away after certain hours from her own sexuality.
From her own sexuality, and from her own self-care as well.
Self-care as well, yes. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's an important factor, and we see the suffering of that, in therapy. So mm-hmm. if that's the situation and you don't know how to take care of it, consult a therapist. We're here to help you out. Mm-hmm. And then the next one is medication. Some drugs can turn down desire, and then some of them are, such as, antidepressants, blood pressure medication, birth control pills, and then chemotherapy, anti-HIV drugs, and then in general, the side effect of medication, there is more, I just have some examples of them.
Yes.
It is significant. I have worked with patients who have been taking, antidepressant, and I have worked with patients who have had heart disease, mm-hmm. right, and high blood pressure, diabetic type 2, and then other or chemotherapy. And because of not having the awareness that medications that they have been using can cause side effect, they came in with conflicts between couples, indicating that they don't feel that the one is attracted to the other one, or they don't right. feel like they have a desire to have sex, and they wanted to know why, what went wrong. Mm-hmm. What went wrong is, and that's not going wrong, because sometimes we have to take medication in order to take care of ourselves. So nothing went wrong except that the medication came in between the couples.
Yeah. And you brought up heart medications. Sometimes when people have had heart problems or a heart attack that they've recovered from, they become scared to get their heart rate up.
Yes.
And of course, that's what happens when you get sexually aroused, is your heart rate starts going faster. And so one or both of the partners can be very reluctant
right.
to have sex, and maybe don't want to say anything about it because right. they don't want it to be real, but it's still happening, that they're avoiding sex.
I have talked to a few physicians across the years of my therapy work that when they prescribe such medication to their patients, what makes them not discuss the negative impact of those medication on the sexuality of their patients, why they're not talking about that with them. Mm-hmm. And then the majority of mutual answer that I have received is that, they're focusing on the disease and controlling the disease and taking care of the diagnosis. They don't look beyond, the side effects on sexuality. They talk about side effects that, they are physiologically apparent, right?
Well,
But they're not talking about their negative impact on sex drive.
And I also think that is a very big topic that you've investigated,
Right.
and you've written a lot about.
Yeah.
Why physicians don't get involved in that. But I also think a large part of it is the lack of training on their part.
Well, yes, and when we looked at medical, schools records and the level of training that they have, I was shocked to learn that a physician, on average, during medical schools, goes through training for sexuality like about less than 20 hours, and that is also to focus on sexual transmitted diseases,
right?
Not anything else.
Yeah, not the human part of it.
Yeah, and then the reproductive care, pregnancy.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. So they have almost zero training in the human part of sexuality, which includes the relationship, and that of course informs a lot of physical health problems.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. So if you're listening to us and you believe that this is what you're experiencing, or you know of somebody who has shared, the problem with you, the point is for them to go back to their, physician, right?
Yeah.
And then discuss the issue with them and see if they can, switch medication to something else that has less impact on sex drive.
Yes.
Because it has caused many relationship problems between couples, especially if this happens to the younger couples, right?
Correct.
So sex is very important to them, and they don't want to lose it. And then situation like this, they can easily be reversed. So if one medication is having that kind of a negative impact on sex drive, I'm sure there is a replacement for that.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because we were talking a few minutes ago about stress,
right?
And not having sex can also be a big stressor in somebody's life.
Exactly. So we just got a notice that our program for the first hour is about to be completed. I would like to invite you to please join us at 4 p.m. so that we can have an episode about codependency, trauma, addictions, and relationship with Dr. Robert Jaffe. Looking forward to see you back in a few minutes.
Remember, all you need is love.
Yes.